Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today, of course, we're going to be breaking down the Nico Collins contract extension and then some other NFL news coming out from around the league. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right. So welcome in, everyone. Glad to see you all this morning on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you are listening. Oh, had a bad coffee sip again. I've got to figure that out. Why do I keep getting like really bad coffee sips on this show? What's going on here? Anyway, good morning to you, Anthony. Good morning, Jeremy. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever y'all are listening. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. Hope you get to your destination safely. Let's go ahead and talk some football, guys. The first thing we're, of course, going to talk about, we might as well just do it right at the top of the show. It's just this Nico Collins extension. We have been waiting for this to happen. A lot of us, myself included, probably thought that this would come next season, as we thought probably they would, finish out this whole Stephon Diggs scenario and then extend Nico Collins next year, so he was still under contract this year. We did know the extension was coming. They had already come out, the front office saying, the general manager saying that they want to extend Nico Collins, that he's a huge part of this offense, that they trust him, that he's proven everything that they want him to prove, and they want to extend him. Just seemed it might not come until next season, but doesn't even matter, as it has now come. Yesterday, Nico Collins became the 7th highest paid wide receiver in the league, signing a 3-year, $72.5 million contract extension, with 52 of that guaranteed. That's a ton of money for Mr. Nico Collins. And this is a player that, going into last season, you could have gotten for basically free. Like, he was not that expensive. He was, like a wide receiver 4 or 5 in rankings. So just, one of these guys just kind of stuck in purgatory, but had a profile that we all really, really liked. And now becoming one of the top 10 highest paid receivers, averaging over 30 or $20-something million a year. That's pretty good. Pretty exciting stuff for Nico Collins. I think it is deserving as well. Last year, of course, he broke out. He caught 80 passes for 1,300 yards with C.J. Stroud, and that was really only in the 15 games. And the biggest thing is really that this was spread around a lot on the Houston Texans offense. Like Tank Dell was being utilized a ton. And then, of course, we had the Noah Brown games and all that stuff. Like Nico Collins last year only had like a 22% target share, which was like outside of the bottom, like 15 of the league. I think it was like 30th in that regard. So anyway, I think it's well-deserving. Great athlete on a great team. Love me some Nico Collins. Why don't we rewind a bit, though? Because I feel like I may have talked about Nico Collins before this offseason, and I just want to share a little bit of a clip that when we talked about Nico Collins and the Stephon Diggs signing. Check this out. And this might be why you should just keep tuning into Wake and Take, the audience. Fading Nico Collins. We've been in love with his profile for years, and we finally got the production, and now we're off of him because a 30-year-old wide receiver showed up? No, hell no. Give me Nico Collins every day of the week at his current price tag. Just had 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns again off of a 22% target share. That's not that high. He could easily get that same exact target share next year. And yet, 7th in points per game, 11th in total touchdowns, 8th in receiving yards, 6th in yards after catch, 2nd in yards per route run, 3rd in yards per target, 9th in yards per reception. What else do you want, guys? Led the league in fantasy points per target versus man. Guys, don't overthink this. Nico Collins, a stud attached to a stud quarterback. He's still going to score an enormous amount of touchdowns, and he's still going to get a ton of yards, and he's still going to be a huge threat on one of the best, if not the best, offenses in the league. Stop fading. So yeah, why were we fading Nico Collins a couple months ago? Why were we doing it? Had no idea then. Had no idea now. And now he gets this extension, and it really is just incredible news. I think it's just, this is one of those players that I've just never been able to quit personally. Not to like do the whole victory lap thing, but I've just loved Nico Collins for a very long time. Been rostering him since my rookie season, or since his rookie season in my dynasty leagues, and most of them. And it finally pays off. We finally get the dividends. It's incredible stuff. And I'm curious to see how much further he will go in dynasty rankings. I know that there's some hype bubbling up around him right now. I'm sure his value's not going to change too much in redraft, but I could see him, at least passing like DK Metcalf, for example, who he's now making more money than in dynasty rankings. I think he's like wide receiver 29 yesterday. He's probably going to eke into like the top 24 now, which I think is deserving. And, that might not be enough, really. Just talking about it for a second, would we really be that surprised if Stephon Diggs throws a temper tantrum this year and just doesn't really play that well? Like, really, would we really be that surprised given he's only on a 1-year contract and wants more money and wants to do all of this stuff? And he's been a, kind of a drama king before. I don't know. But either way, Nico Collins with that money, with the health we saw from him last year, with the season we saw from him last year, that could really just be the beginning. I mean, we could be looking at 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns next year when it comes to Nico Collins. So I would say if you could still get him at the price he was yesterday, I would definitely be buying. And honestly, I wouldn't mind buying even a little bit more inflated of a price tag for Nico Collins, depending on who you would be. So let's go ahead and just do a little bit of a Jason check right now. We can go over to Keep Trade Cut, because that's probably a little bit more updated given their it's a little bit of a consensus thing. So right now on Keep Trade Cut, we have Nico Collins. He has moved up 2 spots now. He was a little bit higher on Keep Trade Cut than he was Player Profiler's dynasty rankings. But either way, he's gone from wide receiver 20, now wide receiver 18, in between DJ Moore and Michael Pittman. Honestly, that's about right. I would maybe there's a couple wide receivers I would look at maybe trying to downgrade into Nico Collins, seeing what I could get on top. Like if you could take Brandon Ayuk, if you could take Tyreek Hill, maybe Rome Odunze, and probably Chris Olave, maybe Malik Neighbors, any of those receivers, and seeing what you could get on top of Nico Collins, I think would be a fine move, to be completely honest with you. He's only 25 years old, which is still pretty young, especially for a wide receiver. He's still going to be catching passes from CJ Stroud. He just got this massive contract extension. He still has one of the better profiles in the league at his size, speed, all of this stuff. He's incredible. He really, really is. So I would say that those wide receivers I named, Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, and the maybe Neighbors and Odunze, depending on how spicy you want to get. I think you could get a nice cherry on top of Nico Collins for those players, and it might just be worth it. I wouldn't be surprised if he performs at least exactly the same as those guys. And I could see Nico Collins, he's probably unlocked the AJ Brown career path now, right? Where you just have this massive athletic freak that comes in, has a huge year, gets the contract, and then just doesn't slow down and continues to dominate and dominate and dominate. And AJ Brown just last year was around the same range, and then of course had a few more spike weeks and has solidified himself as a top 10 dynasty asset. Nico Collins could do very much the same thing. I mean, think about it. Again, I already mentioned that Stephon Diggs could be a drama king this year again, could throw some temper tantrums and just not be locked in. Imagine that happens, and then also Tank Dell gets injured, and we have the conversations again that Tank Dell is just not a very durable wide receiver as good as he is, and Nico Collins really does solidify himself as the alpha in this Texans room. I mean, the sky, there's still room to grow for Nico Collins' value, so I mean, definitely hold him if you have him. This is not, I don't think this is a sell high. I really don't. I don't know what you could get for Nico Collins right now that would be worth it. Really, think about it. Is it yes, he's behind Michael Pittman in dynasty rankings, but is it really worth taking Nico Collins and doing a 1-for-1 swap with Michael Pittman? I don't know. Devontae Smith, even, I'm a huge Devontae Smith fan, but in terms of a year-to-year production, Nico Collins is a few months younger and has a little bit higher of a ceiling given he's not on the same team as AJ Brown. So I still think there's some room to grow here with Nico Collins. Happy for him with the money. I think it's deserving. And yeah, we did get a hell no out of me. I was so mad. I was fired up with all the Nico Collins fading a couple months ago. I had no idea where it came from, because I remember just last year, everyone was calling, and 2 years ago even, we were all hoping and calling for the Nico Collins breakout. I've never heard of a single person dislike Nico Collins until Stephon Diggs signed there. It was so weird to me. Just came out of nowhere. It really did piss me off. I don't understand it. Nico Collins, like I said in the TikTok, this was a prospect and a profile that we had been waiting to break out for a few years now. It finally happened, and now we're fading him? No! Hell no! So anyway, yes. Nico Collins. Awesome. Happy for him. Let's go. The next bit of topics we have for you guys, we'll just go down the show sheet. We'll talk a little bit of the Dolphins running back room as a little bit of information has come out around it. Coach Mike McDaniel is probably looking at upticking Devon Achan's usage. Here's what he had to say. Coach Mike McDaniel believes year 2 can be even more fruitful for the Blazing running back because Achan can focus his offseason on the offense. I think this is an important offseason for him because you were really just hanging on by your coattails as a rookie in the league in general. Now, the way things are kind of structured is there's so much time devoted to working out and getting your testing numbers right, and then you're training for these time measurables, and then you immediately transition into practicing. You get a little bit breath of a break, and then you're still on your rookie season. Year 2, everything settles. You understand much more of the whys of everything, and that you do for him. The more he can understand within the offense, the more ways he can get the ball. He had outstanding production last year, some of which I know he feels specifically that there's more out there from the opportunities he had last year. Being able to find different ways to get people the ball, whether that's different types of pass routes, whether that's different types of run schemes that you can get comfortable with, all those things. There's more ways to be at the point of the attack to play within this offense, and that's what this offseason really provides for him. Seeing some strength gains, and you can tell by his body he's been putting some work in, and him just understanding everything about our offense so he can be as big a part of it as possible. That's his goal. So, Devon Achan bulking up. I know we've heard this story before, but Devon Achan bulking up. B, head in the right place. C, head coach wants to get him the ball more. That's really, really good news. Again, I still want to say, if you can get a really good return for Devon Achan, I don't mind offloading him. I still do fully expect this to be a running back cycle in Miami. I don't think there will be a featured back, really. I mean, like Devon Achan might be the featured back, but I still expect Raheem Mostert to get a ton of carries, and I still expect Jalen Wright to get some usage as well. And we already saw from Devon Achan, even if he's bulking up. Again, we heard that story last year. He said it. He came out, I want to play over 190 this year. I'm not running track anymore. I'm fixing my body. Well, we're hearing the same stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to entail, but we still saw him get injured last year. So I still think there's a little bit of concern when it comes to Devon Achan's durability. As explosive as he is, again, I still expect this to be a pretty cyclical running back room. And if you can get a really, really good return for that player, I think you should. I mean, he's a running back 6 right now in Dynasty. I think that's pretty high. I think you get a really nice return for him, like a Kenneth Walker plus, for example, I think would be solid. But anyway, there's another quote here from Raheem Mostert about Jalen Wright. All in all, I'm happy for him to be in the room. I treat every rookie like I did Devon Achan last year. I'm always going to try to show them the ropes first, give them my pointers, and help them out as best as I can. Like you said, I'm going on the tail end of my career, and I want to be able to make an impact somehow, and that means just bringing along somebody and helping them out. We just got off the field, and he was beating himself up so hard, and I said, don't worry about it. It's a marathon. It's OTAs. We're all right. You're going to be good. And one thing I'll tell you is, hey, you help me feed my family, and I'll help you feed yours. Once I said that to him, he was locked in. So it sounds like Jalen Wright has the good mentor in Raheem Mostert in Miami as well, and so does Devon Achan. Of course, seems like Raheem Mostert is more than just a good football player who had 1,000 rush yards, 25 receptions, and 21 touchdowns last year. Sounds like he's just a good dude as well, and that really does just help the running back room as a whole, helps them to get all fired up, helps them learn from Raheem Mostert, who, of course, again, scored 20 touchdowns last year, was a star. I think that's going to be awesome. And again, just to bring home the point, I do think, again, that this running back room will be fairly cyclical next year. I think Devon Achan is going to get carries. I think Raheem Mostert is going to get carries. I think Jalen Wright is going to get carries. Because if you look last year, Raheem Mostert, despite the success he had, still only had a 53% opportunity share on the season. And Devon Achan, as much success as he had, only had a 40% opportunity share last year. So I could see them both maybe at 40 and Wright at 20 or something like that next year. I think that would be reasonable. Or maybe they just all get 30%. Who knows? But either way, these are 3 running backs with home run hitting speed with some durability concerns that I can't imagine any one of them becomes a bell cow. I could be wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I would much rather take a Devon Achan who's really, really high in his market right now and offload him for another running back and something plus, or just try to switch positions. Maybe even just get Jalen Wright. I don't care. But just, I don't know. I think I am fully expecting this to be a committee approach in Miami, which is fine. I'm sure that Devon Achan is still going to have some 40-point weeks. But anyway, We'll move on to from the Dolphins committee to another committee, and that is the Baltimore Ravens tight end room. It is looking like they're going to be using 12 personnel and some 2 tight end sets this season following the success of Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews' absence. This is what Mark Andrews had to say. It's going to be special. When you have 2 guys that are dynamic, there will be mismatches all over the field. It doesn't matter where you put us. That's tough to game plan for. We're both guys that love to play ball, love to compete, and it's going to be fun. Really, our whole tight end room is special right now, and I'm excited about that. We're just trying to grow and get better each and every day. I'm very thankful to have the tight end group that we have just to continue to get better, and it'll be fun to see how we're used. You see it across the NFL. The tight end position is growing and growing, and these are some guys that are some of the best athletes on the field, being big, tall, strong, and being able to catch passes. I love what we're able to do, and I think that we're going to continue to grow that. Obviously, me, like Isaiah Likely and everybody else, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to be able to play around, game plan, and just play some football. Obviously, we have a Lamar Jackson, and he likes his tight ends, so we're going to get open for him. Awesome stuff. Mark Andrews, hinting that the Ravens are going to be using both him and Isaiah Likely this season, doing a little bit more of a traditional 12 personnel set. And as we know also, Mark Andrews last year missed 7 games due to a cracked fibula, in which Isaiah Likely was able to come in and produce pretty admirably. I think that we have a little bit more of a positive outlook than how it actually went for Isaiah Likely. Yes, if you look at the stats, it seems that good, but it still was totally fine. Like, it really wasn't as good as some, like, I think Isaiah Likely is one of the most overhyped players in Dynasty, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have never in my life seen a backup tight end valued higher than some starting tight ends. It really doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, he's been good when Mark Andrews has been hurt, but the emphasis is good and also when Mark Andrews has been hurt. Last year, of course, 400 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in Mark Andrews' absence. But I just, again, want to emphasize that it wasn't just that great. You see week 8, 1 reception for 10 yards. Week 9, 4 receptions for 42 yards. Week 10, 1 reception for 5 yards. Week 11, 0 receptions. Week 12, 4 receptions for 40 yards. Week 14, 5 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. Not bad. Week 15, 5 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. Not terrible. Week 16, 3 receptions for 56 yards. Week 17, 2 receptions for 42 yards, but both of those receptions were touchdowns, so that made it good. Week 18, 2 receptions for 31 yards, 1 touchdown. Week 20, 2 receptions for 34 yards and 1 touchdown. So again, if you listen to this, it very much sounds like a tight end that is dependent on touchdowns to give you any sort of fantasy production. And the fact that it took touchdowns and an injury to happen for him to even be okay, it's just a player that I don't want on my rosters. I don't even care that they're talking about doing 2 tight end sets. It's still going to go to Mark Andrews, guys. We need to stop forgetting how good Mark Andrews has been in his career. Yes, we had the injury last season, and he missed 2 games the year before, but he's still just been a top 5 tight end pretty consistently when healthy, on top of having those like 30-point ceilings. Like Isaiah Likely, even if he was fine when Mark Andrews was there, he doesn't have the ceiling that Mark Andrews does. So again, I just say, I think Isaiah Likely's a little overvalued, and I would be using maybe this quote, Mark Andrews talking about 2 tight end sets. A Mark Andrews owner might get a little worried and say, well, I don't like the fact that they don't want to focus on him. They want to let Isaiah Likely get the ball. I don't care. We've seen 2 tight end sets be successful in the NFL before with the New England Patriots years back. I'm sure Mark Andrews is going to be totally fine. And I will say one more thing about the Baltimore Ravens and people catching passes here. If this is true, if they're running these 12 personnel sets, then it's probably going to work a lot like the Seattle Seahawks in years past, where 2 wide receivers are out there, and one of them is a field stretcher that is pretty successful in Tyler Lockett. I think Zay Flowers, of course, will be there, but he does not have the speed and the deep threat capabilities that Devontae Walker has. So again, I say, I think Tez Walker is someone that we need to be drafting in our rookie drafts, and especially in the end of redraft and best ball formats. or even just trading for in Dynasty. Tez Walker is very, very cheap right now, and he is going to a very valuable position on the Baltimore Ravens in that field stretching role. We have seen success from time and time again. And I tell you guys, at the Senior Bowl, Devontae Walker may have had a drop issue, but again, he was getting open at an unbelievable rate. I mean, he was burning his coverage pretty consistently, and he has a full offseason to work on the bigger football and hopefully get better at catching. I'm sure he'll be fine. He was good at catching in college. I'm sure that he could end up figuring out how to catch again in the NFL. It just might take a couple months, but either way, that's a role that I want. And especially if they're going to be having two tight ends, kind of Anzay Flowers taking over the middle of the field, defenses are not really going to be able to focus on that deep threat. Like, he's going to sneak through for some big chunk plays throughout the year. So I really do like Tez Walker in this system, especially also with Derrick Henry. Like, it's going to be a very consolidated power attack, it sounds like, in Baltimore. So that one elusive guy that's going to sneak through every once in a while, and Tez Walker, I want him. So anyway, that's my Ravens spiel this morning. Exactly. Anthony makes a fantastic point. If Likely was better, he would take time from Andrews like Andrews did from Hurst. Exactly. Like, again, all of Isaiah Likely's production has come when Mark Andrews has been hurt. And as you point out, we've seen not even just tight ends, but generally when a player is good, they find playing time regardless of how good the starter is in front of them. I don't get the Likely hype. I really don't. But whatever. The next bit of news we have for you guys is just a little bit of confirmation bias for this fella. And that is the Buffalo Bills. Looks like I didn't make an overlay. Sorry for that. But it's sounding like they're going to be spreading the ball around a ton next season, as kind of expected. Again, my philosophy here when I'm attacking the Buffalo Bills is really that the only person I want is Josh Allen, but I'll take some swings on Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid and maybe even Marcus Valdes-Scantling super late in best ball leagues, just because I don't know who the main target is going to be. And when I think about that, when I really put on my coordinator brain and what I would do if I was running an offense with new weapons, with a quarterback that can sling it, I'm going to spread the ball around. I want to get all the weapons the ball. Like, it's, when you're unfamiliar with people, give them all the ball and just see what happens. So that's what I expect to happen this year. I don't expect a true focal point. We saw from Dalton Kincaid, he is not good when Dawson Knox is active. We know Dawson Knox is still Josh Allen's red zone safety net, so that's still going to be there. Khalil Shakir is the only wide receiver on this team who caught passes from Josh Allen last year. So I just think that they're going to, have to use this offseason to learn a lot, which we already talked about on Monday's episode. Josh Allen and the wide receivers have been frequently staying after practice to continue to work on their connection and learn some things about each other, which is very, very great news. I'm not fading anyone on the Bills, really. I just don't think that overpaying for a certain receiver, expecting them to be the main target, is a good decision. I think it's going to be spread around a lot. And that really just leads to Josh Allen being the guy. But here's what offensive coordinator Joe Brady says, and the article itself. Offensive coordinator Joe Brady plans for everyone to get a bite of the apple. Khalil Shakir says, Brady tells us all the time, everybody will eat. Joe Brady has a quote here. You got to be really intentional about it, because at the end of the day, there's only one guy in the receiver room that's even caught a ball from Josh Allen in a game. So every rep in practice, there's such an intention behind what we're doing and why we're doing it. There's some elements of things that I believe in, but it's more of like, tell me who we have on our football team and the guys and what they can do well, and we're going to do that. At the end of the day, this is Josh Allen's offense. Your offense is Josh Allen's, but it's also about what your players do well, and this is the time right now where we're experimenting, figuring out what our guys can do. We'll continue to evolve, and come September, we're hoping that we'll have a good feel. Just get Josh Allen. Just get Josh Allen if you want to be a part of this Bills offense. Maybe James Cook and Ray Davis. I think they're fine dart throws. But I don't know. Maybe Khalil Shakir, since he's cheap, and again, the only receiver that's actually caught a ball from Josh Allen. Generally, that type of stuff matters just because connections between quarterbacks and receivers are very important. Josh Allen's already familiar and comfortable with Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir has shown up in some big moments for the team as well. So I do think he's going to have a pretty decent role. I'm just not sure what the ceiling is going to be. And I don't know if there's actually going to be a true alpha on this offense. So we'll see what happens. We've heard hype about Keon Coleman. We've even heard hype about Mac Hollins, which again, just makes me believe it's going to be spread around a lot. Everyone's going to be asked to do a bunch of different things. And the Bills offense is just going to run through Josh Allen. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But just don't overpay for a Bills weapon thinking that they're going to be the guy. I find that hard to believe. The next bit of news we have for you guys, I should have just stayed with the Ravens. I have a Ravens news soon, but whatever. We're going to talk about Justin Fields first, and then we'll stay within division. Justin Fields has talked about the kick return rumors. He said, "No, I'm not here to do that." It was kind of a joke, to be honest with you. Everyone just interpreted it wrong. Coach Danny was basically just sending a message that no matter who you are, you could be on special teams, and he just used me as a silly example. It's funny how serious social media takes everything. It was funny to me when everybody was making a big deal about it for no reason. The article then goes on to say, "Fear not, Fields has been working at quarterback extensively, and last week said that he's definitely competing with Wilson for quarterback 1 honors. Head coach Mike Tomlin has praised both of their work under center to this point." And then Fields ended the interview saying, "But hey, you never know. We'll see what happens." But either way, it sounds like he's not actually being used on kick returns, and it sounds like a soundbite that went awry. So don't panic if you own Justin Fields. He's still going to be a quarterback for the Steelers this season, and he's still going to score us fantasy points. So back to the Ravens, Malik Cunningham. This was news that came out of nowhere. Malik Cunningham, Lamar Jackson's former teammate in Louisville, the quarterback, is switching to wide receiver on the Baltimore Ravens. And so you might be asking yourself, Jason, didn't you just talk about a speedster wide receiver, Tez Walker? What about Malik Cunningham? Isn't he speedy? Not really. Malik Cunningham is actually not that fast. He's fast for a quarterback. He runs a 4.53 40, but that's really just fine for a wide receiver. It's sounding like Malik Cunningham is going to find himself more in the slot role, if anything. Here's what the Ravens wide receiver coach had to say. He loves the game and wants to find any way he can get onto the field. If it's at receiver, QB, running back, D-line, he's just out there trying to get it done. He's done a great job transitioning from the QB position to the wide receiver position, working with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. They're bringing him along and teaching him the nuances of playing receiver, but he understands spatial awareness. He understands that from a quarterback perspective. So obviously he already understands zone coverage. So now it's just getting him to do the little things that he hasn't really done as a quarterback, as a wide receiver. So I think that this could be exciting. You guys know me. I like the idea of former quarterbacks playing receiver. We've hyped up Luke McCaffrey a little bit, given that he understands defenses. We have Julian Edelman years back. Just these players that have played quarterback before, they have just a little bit of extra knowledge about the defense. And as the wide receivers coach on the Ravens said, spatial awareness. It's so important. Who's a wide receiver that has a great knack for spatial awareness on the Rams? His name's Cooper Kupp, who has just been incredible. And of course, I'm not saying Malik Cunningham can be Cooper Kupp, but the ability to find spaces in defenses and understand zone coverage gives you a high floor in the NFL. It does. And so I think Malik Cunningham, maybe could be a solid receiver. I don't know, right? No one really knows. But I think he's at a good starting point. I think he's in the right offense with all the people that are there to be able to utilize him creatively. And it sounds like he would even play D-line if he have to. This is just a guy that obviously loves football and just wants to be out there. Sounds like a hard worker. So I'm excited to see what happens. We've seen a quarterback in the NFL go from quarterback to wide receiver in Terrell Pryor, and he was pretty successful. I believe he had at least a 900-yard receiving. I'm not sure if he cracked the 1,000, but I think he had 900 something. And now Malik Cunningham is not the athletic freak that Terrell Pryor is. Terrell Pryor was way over 6 feet tall and way over 200 pounds. Malik Cunningham is 6 foot 190, so a little bit more of the prototypical route running size, but that's good. It sounds like he'll be a slot intermediate type receiver, just trying to find the zones in the defense. And again, he was Lamar Jackson's teammate in college. Granted, they were both in the quarterback room together, so that's a little bit different, but they have that connection as well. So I'm sure that they're going to be able to work on things together and establish a little bit of a relationship. So I think it's interesting, to say the least, Malik Cunningham going to receiver. We've seen on the Ravens lots of different receivers crack the field due to injuries. So it's possible we see him next year getting some usage. So we'll see. I don't think I'm going to recommend anyone pick him up yet, unless you're in a really deep league. But like I said, I like the idea of quarterback switching to wide receiver. I do think it gives you a decent floor. So if we start to hear a little bit more about him, having good hands, I mean, that's something we don't know about. I mean, we don't even know if he can catch the ball, right? It sounds like we know he can run routes. Can he catch the ball? Like, can he handle man coverage, right? Like, these are all the questions we're still going to have answered this offseason. But it's interesting, to say the least. Keep your eyes on this, ladies and gentlemen. The final bit of news I have for you guys is on Drake May. Elliott Wolf has come out and been asked about when he will start. And here's what he had to say. I'll go ahead and tell you guys it's basically a nothing burger, but it is interesting, at least. This is what he had to say. It was with Kay Adams on Up and Adams. Elliott Wolf said, "I think those will be some important conversations for us to have. Right now, it's Jacoby Brissett. He's taking the first team reps, and we're excited about what he's shown not only off the field, but on the field with his throwing ability. Drake May, let's be honest, we've had him for 3 weeks now. There's a long way to go for all of our rookies and all of our players as we adapt this new scheme that coach Alex Van Pelt is implementing offensively. So we're going to have these conversations as they arise, and I'm sure it's going to be a collaborative approach as it's been so far with all of the big decisions that we've made. All 4 of the quarterbacks that we have on the roster right now are working hard and ready to go. I wouldn't say that I have a specific philosophy on developing quarterbacks. I think every person and player is different. So I just think you have to be true to what you're seeing and listen to the coaches and really understand who's ready and who's not ready. Again, like I said, in this particular situation, Drake's been with us now for 3 weeks, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe he'll be ready. Maybe he won't. Are we a playoff team? Listen, we're not playoffs or bust, but I would say we're looking for progress. So it just sounds like, again, it sounds like Drake May is not going to be starting early this season, and that's totally fine. Jacoby Brissett has been more than capable when he's been out there as a starting quarterback, wherever he's been. Even last year in his limited time with Washington, was absolutely slinging it. So I don't think it's a bad decision to sit Drake May and let him sit a little bit. We know that he's a little bit unpolished, to say the least. He does not have great footwork, to say the least. And Gerard Mayo has already come out and said he has a long way to go. So it just sounds like we're going to have to take our time here with Drake May. But I do think that he's going to work out in the long run. I think that they are establishing a pretty solid culture here. I like what I'm hearing from Gerard Mayo and really the rest of the team. Elliott Wolf, even kind of just having the ability to say, you've just got to be true to what you're seeing and what the coaches are saying. Not a lot of general managers and player personnel people say that. They have a lot of ego. And it sounds like Elliott Wolf does, and I think that will help this team in the long run. And I do still think that Drake May will be awesome whenever he does get the chance. But I like the fact that it sounds like they're taking their time, because that does generally help in the development of a quarterback, not just throwing him out there to fail immediately. Like, it's going to be a really rough season for the Patriots. So just let the rookie maintain his confidence and learn behind Brissett and start when he's ready. So I would say if Jacoby Brissett is available in your Superflex leagues and you really, really do need a quarterback, this is like if you need one, I don't mind it. Again, this will be a rental. I do think Drake May will start at some point this season, but you can get a few weeks out of Jacoby Brissett early in the season if you really need to kind of get over the top. I would especially do that if you have Drake May, just to have that quarterback room locked in. And I would also say wait to buy Drake May. Right now, we're kind of still in rookie fever as we hear more, bad news from Drake May in camp. Again, we've already heard his head coach say he has a long way to go. I'm sure that it's not going to be entirely positive this offseason. I think that there will be a buying window for Drake May, whether it be negative camp hype or like Jacoby Brissett just actually coming out and starting and playing well for a few weeks. I think that would make Drake May acquirable as well. So either way, looking like he's not starting anytime soon for those of you that drafted him in your rookie drafts. So that is all I have for you guys in terms of the news. Let's go ahead and hop into the chat, see if we have any questions. Yes, Julian Edelman was a quarterback who switched to receiver. And let's see. Tank Dell has the most upside to explode from his ADP. I agree. His ADP right now in Underdog especially is way too low. 17-18, Devontae is a great Lamar stack. Exactly. Yeah, actually, really no questions, just comments. Thanks, guys. Fun. Appreciate y'all. As always, no one has any questions on Instagram, so that should do it for this morning. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This was another fun episode of Wake and Take, and you guys were a fantastic audience, as always. Hope to see you all tonight on Trade Gods, 9 p.m. Eastern. Matty Kiwoom and I will be talking OTA hype if we're buying or selling those players. So I think it's going to be an important episode for y'all to tune in. And then, of course, I hope to see you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, here on the Player Profiler, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, breaking down the news and whatever else I feel like talking about tomorrow morning. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, find the Wake and Take podcast via link in description. Follow me on social via this username at JFootballWine on the banner. And y'all have a wonderful Wednesday and a fantastic rest of your week. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.